Well, one suggestion that I'd given in different forms and most recently to a client who's recovering from a loss and also past trauma is I think it's time for your selfish era to unfold. I added a little expletive there, but it was sometimes we think we're being selfish, but you're not being nearly selfish enough. Not really. So if you were to not consider other people's expectations for a moment or what you normally would do or think you should, what do you really want? And how can you move ever so slightly towards what you want just for you, for nothing other than your good old, plain old selfish, I'm worthy, love and on. Like take that 5-year-old, 10-year-old, 12-year-old version of you, hug her close, bring her in. What do I need as my whole self if I was being utterly selfish? I can just about guarantee that it's not selfish enough up until this point. What would give you something to be excited about?
When I get overwhelmed with myself, because clutter has been part of my journey as well, in that I say just three things. So it's don't tackle everything, do just three things. And then it's looking at it in that, yes, what does that mean to you, those three things? And just have them in front of you and looking at them. You don't need to go rooting for the three things. It's just whatever is closest by of theirs, because then you've eliminated a level of decision making. And then you go to those three things. And is it something that you can see and that you want to have on display because it shows your love for them? Or is it something that you think somebody else would like? Or is it something that you can donate and pass on for somebody else to enjoy and give it a new lease of life? So that's what
Yeah,
my
great
advice would.
suggestion. I wrote a poem, I wrote a letter to my mom and made no copies of it and then buried it in a place that felt significant. And A thing that I've done for other forms of grief is to do a similar thing of writing a very tender poem or a letter, and then setting it on fire. Actually, like figuring out a way to create. I think that um, it can almost feel pedantic sometimes. These like very important symbolic things that allow our brain to do something different helps us like complete the circuit. But like being able to like create a space for an emotion, even a confused emotion, even something that's not clear, and then doing some sort of practice around really letting it go. So like by burying it and letting it be somewhere in the ground where it's going to disintegrate, by setting it on fire and letting it move away in a different way. I think these things can be, as long as you're being safe with fire, everyone, please, can be can be really meaningful. Another thing I did was, a few years after she passed away, I had a ring that I always wore that belonged to her when she was a teenager. We were in Italy, which is a place she'd always wanted to visit, and she'd never been. And I like held the ring and used it as another opportunity to say goodbye, and then left the ring in the river. Because for me, I don't feel safe going to her grave, because the moments where I think about doing that is when I might run into someone else. And I
Mm.
wanted to have somewhere different to be able to remember her. So I think those um not underestimating the value of like how we can move our feelings into objects, and use those as markers to be able to like let things go,
Yeah.
um, is a really powerful.
The hey wait tool is a way to start to say to someone, hey wait, you get to say hey wait to people. You get to say, hey wait, I know I said that I would come to the PTA meeting. I can't this week. Hey wait, when you just said that, I felt like you glossed over my whole experience. Can I take an extra beat and tell you what's really going on? And for someone who has been a people pleaser and someone who has always entered other people's world, that's terrifying. It's terrifying. but it's also solidifying is the word I want to say. Like it gives you substance back because you're used to being a vapor around other people. You're used to being chameleon, whatever they need you to be. So, hey, wait is the way of saying like, I get to be considered too. And you can say it to yourself.
I think that the one area, especially with living with this grief and living with somebody with Alzheimer's, the amount of responsibilities and areas of concern that you have to deal with, elder care attorneys, life insurance, wills, all those things that you may have put off or you probably didn't need to worry about, power of attorney. I think it's really important for people to understand and get educated on all the areas, health insurance, Medicaid. And so the one piece of advice that I would recommend is you can't tackle all of them at the same time.
I always say, like, the first thing for me is find who your people are. So whether it's a combination of these, whether you're going to therapy, whether you're going to a support group, you're going to a grief counselor, you're finding, like I did, are surviving the now, like find your people, because that for me has been a lifesaver. And again, like I said, from day one, I'm super fortunate. I had great people around me already. So, but it's finding what else you need and paying attention to those small moments, because when you're in this, when this anticipatory grief is it's so unbelievable, right? Like you're losing things all the time. And so figure out what you need and really ask for it.